Broadcasting out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, you're listening to the Low Blow MMA Boxing Podcast.
Jorge Hernandez with the Low Blow MMA Boxing Podcast, USCombatSports.com, and SWFight.com. Today we're pleased to be joined by the super welterweight WBA champion of the world from Las Cruces, New Mexico, Austin No Doubt Trout. Austin, how are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself, Jorge?
Pretty good. This is the fifth time we have you on, man. Thanks for coming back.
No, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So you're 24-0 with 14 KOs. You're set to probably be in the biggest fight of your career, June 2nd at the Home Depot Center in Carson, California, against BoxRec number 9 ranked guy Delvin Rodriguez, who's 26-5 and has really made a name for himself the last couple of years. Tell us about your thoughts about the fight and just the opportunity to be on such a large stage on Showtime.
Well, first of all, I got to thank God for this opportunity. Thank God for just the road that's brought me here. Delvin's a great opponent to have a coming out party with. He's no joke. He's not going to lay down. He's coming for my belt. He's a good fighter. He's been through, some good fights and experience. He's an exciting fighter. What else can I say? It's a great opponent, great stage. It's just perfect. Everything's lining up perfectly, and it has to be the work of God because, man doesn't do that too much for me.
There's 2 world titles on this card. Of course, Antonio Tarver and Latif Coyote will be fighting on here. On this card, your title, of course, against Delvin. Winky Wright and, Kid Chocolate Quillen will be fighting on that card as well. So you got 2 world championship belts and 2 potential Hall of Famers on this card. This is probably the biggest fight card you've been on. So tell us about the anticipation of one fighting alongside Tarver and Winky Wright.
Well, it's nothing but excitement. I'm super stoked to have it come. It's making me train harder. My focus is on 1,000. It's on a level 1,000, and to be able to be with these type of fighters and these Hall of Famers is an honor. And it's awesome because whether you're going to watch for me or not, if you were tuning in for Austin Trout or not, I'm sure you were tuning in for Tarver or for Peter Quillen or for Tarver, and that's where I plan on coming in and stealing the show and stealing your heart. So, like I said, it's the perfect platform.
We saw you at the presser a couple of weeks ago. How was that to be on the national spotlight and to having that many members of the media there present? Most of your fights the last 3 years, man, have been out of the country. So how did that differ from all your other pre-fight press conferences?
Well, it was actually the first press conference where I was like a little bit starstruck. You got Winky Wright and Tarver sitting right next to me, and I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit nervous, and I don't really get nervous easily, So it was a good experience. I even learned a lot, about my press conference skills I need to get up. They have great hype mode and everything. It's just there's a lot to take in, but at the same time, I think that was pretty cool.
This is the first time we've actually spoken to you since you've actually brought Al Heyman along as an advisor. How has that gone? Obviously, it's gone well. Just a couple of weeks after signing him, you signed the fight with Delvin Rodriguez. Tell us about how Al Heyman came into the picture.
Well, he had his associate Sam Watson contact me, and he called me and said, "You know who Al Heyman is?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course I know who Al Heyman is." He's like, "Would you be interested in signing with Al Heyman?" And, you kind of want to be like, "Duh, you know it," but of course he's like, "Yeah, of course, when can we do this?" So a couple weeks later, I met him in Houston. We talked about it. A couple weeks later after that, we had a signed contract.
How was our fights in Houston? You were out there for, pretty important contests out there. Did you get a lot of love?
Oh, yeah, the Carlos Molina Carson fight and the Garcia Eric Morales fight. The fights were wonderful. It was awesome. There was controversy. There was good boxing. There was a couple knockouts. Just what a boxing card should be, right?
Exactly. And there was a little shakeup in the division here recently with Floyd Mayweather defeating Miguel Cotto for what is, your piece of the belt as well. How does it feel to actually view 2 guys of that high caliber competing for a championship that's yours, and then maybe even Mayweather potentially being set as your mandatory opponent here within the next year?
Well, it's very exciting. You know, it's also not a proof. Well, it's proof dreams can come true. Not that saying that it's gonna happen, but you see the strong possibility of it happening. Right there is proof enough that dreams come true. Shoot high. You know, I've shot high, and fighting and beating Floyd is one of the goals since he is the pound-for-pound #1 guy. You know, if that changes, then so will my goal. But, you know, that is one of my goals right there. And to be so close to it, you know, be almost to touch it and stuff, it's pretty awesome. Now, am I satisfied with being close to it? No. I want to grab and hold that belt around my waist. And that's the ultimate goal. But you know, this is pretty awesome being so close.
Yeah. And there was a lot of shakeup that night as well, with Saul Alvarez having a dominating victory over Shane Mosley. And there's also word now that Canelo Alvarez might actually be fighting Paul Williams. What are your ideas over that fight?
Well, you know, the fight, getting Canelo in there with Paul Williams is a careful, strategic move. You know, it's smart moves on behalf of De La Hoya and their team. Paul, and you know, it's not really a bad fight for the fans. It's not like they're giving them a total duck. You know, Paul Williams will make an exciting fight for however long it lasts. Is that who Canelo should be fighting? You know, that's not my place to say. I'm not his promoter. You know, do I want him to fight me? Yes, of course. You know, you're not getting a belt fighting Paul Williams. You can get a belt fighting me. But, you know, I think he understands that he will lose the belt fighting me, not game.
Just to go back and touch back on your upcoming fight with Delvin Rodriguez, you know, he's got a blue-collar type of style that comes behind him. He's not the flashiest guy in the world. So what have you been doing and incorporating into your training to prepare for Delvin Rodriguez?
Well, you know, we've watched this film, and we've made our adjustments, you know, based on some of his best fights. You know, I like looking at the best fights that they have, and instead of, you know, looking at the recents or things like that, because you want to be prepared for the best Delvin Rodriguez we have. And, you know, seen through his fights, he's changed his style up a bit. So we have a number of Delvin Rodriguez's that we are prepared for.
Also, we recently, you know, saw and read about you that you were training with Matthew Macklin and preparing him for his fight against Sergio Martinez that took place earlier this year in March. And Matthew Macklin put up one hell of a fight, man. How was he during training, and how did you think you benefited from training with him as well?
Well, you know, show me where I was on the road scene. I definitely helped him out. He made a lot of adjustments through that camp. And again, it just showed me where I'm at. You know, Macklin's, you know, only one of the top fighters in the middleweight, and you know, showing me my strength and my toughness, pretty much. You know, if I can tough it out with a guy like Macklin, then I'll be all right.
Yeah. And just as a side note, Sergio Martinez has previously been one of your sparring partners as well. So, not to touch on that too much either, but you've been in there with some of the best when it comes to training.
And they all, you know, were good confidence boosters.
Yeah, definitely. And also, we've been reading your tweets about your attempt to conquer Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, man. What's up with that, with Piston Honda laying you out?
Yeah, man, I was kind of mad. Well, I was peeved off. But I cannot get past Soda Popinski, man. Just thinking, if anybody has the strategy, because his uppercuts are hella fast, and I think they cheat, man. It's like 3-punch knockout. So how do we get past Soda Popinski, and then I think my journey will be able to continue to get Mike Tyson.
Austin, I think that's the fifth grader in you coming out that the computer is cheating.
It's cheating, and I'm pressing the buttons right. And then I sitting there giving me my 1-2s like I had.
you gotta bob and weave, son, bob and weave. So, you know, after your losses here on Punch-Out, are you going to leave trainer Doc Lewis and return back to your Las Cruces trainer Louis Burke, man?
You know, most definitely, because Doc ain't got nothing helpful to say, except for King Hippo. That's the only time he's really ever helpful, tell him to shut his mouth. Now, I'm sitting there for Soda Popinski, he's like, watch the left. I'm like, yeah, I'm trying. Thanks. Is there anything else you can tell me, you know? Like a time his right hand, something. But I'm going to get it. I'm not giving up.
What's the best piece of advice Doc Lewis has ever given you?
You know what? The best advice is with the Indian cat, Great Tiger. When it says, you know, after, what does it say? You know, deflect his voodoo punch and punch him in his, whatever that is. Yeah, when he sits there, he does a little twirl around, punch at you, and then he stops, and his face is all. You gotta punch him. That was the best advice.
And then you got him.
One hit or quit it.
Then you got him. Well, Austin, is there anything you'd like to tell your fans?
Yeah, man. We keep a lookout. June 2nd, Showtime. Tune in. It's it's going down. Delvin will not show up just to lose. He's gonna try and beat me, and I'm doing everything in my power to not let that happen. So tune in. We're still in the show.
Yeah, and furthermore, man, what the heck happened to your Facebook page for a while there earlier this year?
You know what? Mark Zuckerberg is hanging on me. He just deactivated my account for no reason. I can't even tell you, man. My Jones got deleted. I had to start all over. I lost all kinds of pictures, Mark. Hater.
Well, I mean, if people want to follow you, it's Austin, No Doubt Trout, on the Facebook fan page, at No Doubt Trout on Twitter. Make sure you follow this guy. He's a star. He's a stud. Austin, we look forward to meeting back up with you in person with video interview here this Sunday in Las Cruces, New Mexico. So best of luck with training. We'll see you this weekend, and we'll also see you in Los Angeles. The Low Blow, SWFight.com, and US Combat Sports will be in the building for both your weigh-in and the fight.
Beautiful. I appreciate you having me on, Jorge.
My pleasure. The WBA Super Welterweight Champion of the World, Austin No Doubt Trout. Austin, thank you very much.
Thank you.